Hey, my name is Colin, and today we're going to be talking about diabetes type 1. So what I have pictured here in red is a blood vessel or a vein, and we can just think about that as all the blood in your body. And then these circles here in yellow, they are cells, and these cells perform a variety of functions. Maybe they're part of muscle, maybe they could be part of internal organs, or even skin cells. And so the question is, what allows these cells to perform their basic activity? Maybe it's the contraction of a muscle, or maybe it's the digestion of food. Well, cells need energy, and that energy comes in the form of sugar. So here I have this just in the form of sugar as sugar cubes, but really it's glucose molecules that is broken down from carbohydrates, which is things like rice and different things that contain sugar, like maybe like candy. And so when someone eats carbohydrates, they go into the blood in the form of sugar. And the sugar is what allows cells to do their basic functions. The question is, can sugar freely flow into the cell, which would allow the cell to do what it has to do? And the answer to that question is no. Sugar by itself cannot flow into a cell. So sugar needs a friend or a helper to allow it to move from the blood into the cells. So what I've pictured here is insulin, which is the friend of sugar that allows sugar to flow into the cells. And insulin is produced by an organ in the body called the pancreas, which I have outlined here. I always think the pancreas looks like a whole bunch of grapes for some reason, so I made it purple. And so when the pancreas is working properly, then it produces insulin, which is a hormone, and the insulin flows into the blood, and then when it's flowing into the blood, it allows sugar to enter the cells. Remember that the pancreas has a vital role in creating insulin as a hormone, which then goes into the blood, which then allows sugar to do what it has to do. Here we have visualized when you have sugar in the blood, which you get from eating food in the form of carbohydrates or things like rice, then you have insulin in the blood, which is produced by the pancreas. And then when the insulin binds to the cell, think of that as opening a funnel or a doorway that allows sugar to go into the cell. And then once that sugar is in the cell, then the cell can metabolize it or use that energy to do whatever it has to do. Maybe that's if all your cells have enough sugar, you can go out and play cricket and use metabolic energy using functions. So here we have sugar entering the cells through insulin binding to the cell, allowing the sugar to enter the cell. And this is what happens when things work normally. And so what happens when the pancreas isn't working as it should? And this is what happens in type 1 diabetes. Perhaps it is a genetic malfunction or a illness that prevents the pancreas from working as it should. And then when this happens, then the insulin produced by the pancreas is no longer produced, which means that it no longer flows into the blood and it can no longer help sugar enter cells. So without insulin, the sugar is in fact stuck within the blood vessels, and then it cannot enter the cells. And then the cells themselves, they're like, hey, where's my energy? Where's my food? So they begin to not perform as desired, and the sugar remains in the blood. So when the sugar stays in the blood and it has no help to enter the cells, then your whole body cannot function as properly. And then what happens? So as the sugar cannot enter the cells, If someone was to keep eating, then the sugar builds up in the blood vessels and it can no longer leave the blood. And this is what is described as elevated or increased blood sugar. So there's a lot of sugar in the blood. And generally, this can lead to a lot of bad things for the body, right? So if someone has a very high blood sugar, they might feel tired, they might have increased thirst, they might feel dizzy, and oftentimes they might urinate frequently. Now, if you think about this, if someone's thirsty, that might be an attempt for the body's attempt to say, hey, there's a lot of sugar in the blood here, so let's try to dilute the blood in order to make it seem like there's less blood sugar here. And even urinating. So if you have to urinate a lot, and that might seem like the body is trying to get rid of all this sugar when it normally wouldn't have all the sugar in the body. So the next thing we're going to discuss is basic mechanisms that or medications that can mimic insulin when insulin is no longer produced by the body, so that the blood sugar can enter the cells as necessary. Thanks.